Hey everybody, welcome back. This is art stream number, I think, 7 for this one. No wait, or is it 6? It's one of them. It's one of those in there. Anyways, we're back. It's been pretty quickly because we just did one yesterday, but I want to work more on this tonight and kind of get this more done, so I figured I'd keep working on it. And keep streaming it. As in terms of me doing better, it's like I feel slightly better. Still like a slight headache. Still a slight tinge in my throat, but it hasn't got worse. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully, not too bad. Yeah. Hopefully it's gonna be a quick pass. I guess the next thing to do for this one is just gonna be to do the lighting and do the shadows. I think that's the next part that I should probably get done. And I set up a bunch of that before, but it's either that or doing the flats. So I think shadows are going to need to be what I do next. Thank you for everybody who's checking in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions for me while I'm working, let me know. Screeby is here to keep us company. I have to make that into a mode or something like that at some point. Alright, let's make a duplicate of Azale so I can go ahead and kind of consolidate some of this stuff. Let's go ahead and fill that in really quick. See if there's anything that I'm missing. Hey, Blue Lip. Thanks for cheering, dude. Ooh, I got a lot of shit in here. I should probably figure that out. Let's go ahead and drag this up here. That's what I need to do. I need to erase. It's a duplicate, so I can just erase some of this stuff. Luckily, I remembered to restart my computer this time, so the pen thing works right off the bat. Now, I don't necessarily need to consolidate these, but it will help in the long run. Could keep them separate, but I like keeping all my shadow layers for at least per character on the same thing, so I can make all the settings the same or adjust them how I have to. Sometimes I have to adjust them per character because if there weren't a lot of white or something like that, the soft light doesn't work too well, so I have to kind of change it up a little bit, and I'll have to do different things like multiply and other things to make it feel like it fits with the rest of the illustration. Let's see, get that out of there and do that. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Get rid of that. Nice. Oh, there's still one more little bit here. Cool. That's okay. Chris is in the other room actually grinding Dark Souls right now. So we're both putting in some work. Let's see. That's there. That's good. I need to erase a little bit of this, don't I? Okay. Wow, I got so many things that are in different layers. Okay. Erase that. And I made a duplicate, and this is version 3, so luckily, if anything was messed up, I could go ahead and, grab an older version. That's one reason why I like having multiple older versions, is a Hail Mary, just in case. Have you recorded any more Nier outside what has aired so far? We've recorded like 2 or 3 past what we've done of Nier. But honestly, we were going to record more this week, but then Chris got sick, and then now I'm sick. So we haven't done anything yet. Like, we even canceled D&D this week because both of us are still recovering. Luckily, mine seems minor, way minor compared to what he went through. He had a full-on, fever and all that jazz. So, hopefully we should be able to record. We'll probably record maybe this weekend, or we'll record on Monday or something like that. But yeah, we haven't done much more in Nier yet. Nice. Yeah, I was playing 14 a little bit earlier too. I was doing a lot of trials and trusts and stuff. I might do some more later tonight. But I'm pretty much in I'm in full rest mode, so I want to make sure that I get some art done and get that taken care of. I haven't had a lot of time to do art this week. A lot of job stuff, which positive stuff. It's some like new teaching stuff that I'm gonna have opportunities to teach more animation and illustration stuff to kids, so that's rad. Even though the reason I'm sick right now. So that's cool. So I'm excited for that, but it's left me pretty drained. Apparently. My body's like, hey, you need a break. But I should be good to go by Monday. I don't think this is going to last much longer. It also just seems like, it's not the flu. It's nothing like super contagious that I have. It seems like it's probably just like a head cold that I just, can't seem to, whether I'll get rid of it or not, I don't know. How long it'll take to get rid of. Alright, let's take this and combine that with that one. Hire that. Cool. Now that's all on one layer. Let's make that my flat. Oop, not my fat, my flat. And then make my ink there. And then these are little eye floopies. Eye floopies. Just so I can consolidate a little bit of that. Close that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Oh, that's right. I was figuring some of that stuff out. Okay. You know what? Let's just do his first. So, whenever I'm doing, like, this kind of stuff. Create layer name. Yeah. It's going to be dark. It's going to be blizzardy. I'm probably going to want a darker blue. I'm a big fan of not having black as my shadow layer. I don't really like that. Every time I see a cartoon with black shadows, I'm just like, you're picking the worst possible color for this. So the light source is kind of coming from him when I was determining this. It's going to be mostly coming from the axe, so he's going to have some rim lighting. I'll treat it like that the light source is here and permeating from his axe a little bit, giving a little bit of darkness in here in his inner self, because I don't want all of it to be lit. Let's go with there. And typically, once I decide my shadow color, I'll do something like this. And I'll just do a separate layer at the top and just call it shadow. But I have the smoothing on really high, so shadows. That way I can kind of pick and pull it whenever I need to, because I'm going to have to do it on every individual character is going to have their own shadow. But yeah, there's a lot of art stuff that I want to get done, but I just have not either had the energy or had the time to do it this week. So hopefully that changes. Now that I'm thinking about it, do I need more detail on the axe first? I might need to add some more detail first, that axe. Let me pull up my reference. Not there, not there. Yeah, I need to segment that a little bit, I think. I could do without? Let me see. Yeah, it'll be something like that, and then something like that. Because I'm not doing it perfectly. And then they have these things, and I have some rivets. Bring that around. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get that in a little bit before I go ahead and do the shadows for that one. So upping the smoothing, moving some of my reference out of the way so I can see chat because it's completely blocking all of that. Oh, hey Kaiser, how's it going, dude? Haven't played 14. Are there actual characters in the game, or are these OCs? So, the main guy in here, Zale, is a buddy of mine that I raided with for a long time and a good time friend, and he commissioned me to do an illustration of his character. The Garland soldiers are canon. There's no like main character I'm drawing in here. No like Gaius Van Darnus or something like that. So like he's fighting like canon characters in it. In a sense, it's all canon because the main character that you play in 14 is the central protagonist in the story. It's not like World of Warcraft, from what I've heard, where like you kind of just see the events that go on, or kind of like in Final Fantasy XI, where you're important, but you're not as important. Like in 14, it's like the same as any single player MMO and any single player RPG. It's like you're the main guy. You're the thing that causes the wheels to turn. So in a sense, this is canon. This is a canon character. For Zale's account, this is the canon. But yeah, that's kind of how that game works. 14's great. It's a time commitment, but it's a fantastic game. And I typically like it's my go-to game most of the time in terms of like I need something to play for a little bit and not have to think about what I'm doing. 14 is my go-to. That is just a really great story. But I've also built a community of friends through that, so I think that's the main reason why I come back and why I didn't stop. It's the main reason I played 11 for as long as I did. And the reason that I quit 11 was just because all my friends stopped playing. So my friends stopped playing. It's just like, well, this game's interesting, but I also had to focus on college, so life was kind of pulling me in a different direction at the time. Still love that game. And I get the urge every now and then to come back to it. I still haven't pulled the trigger yet. But even just the other day, I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be fun to go back to that game? Wouldn't it be fun to stream that game? And I was like, yeah, they probably don't see that. And then part of me is like, I don't need another addiction. But yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia, a lot of love for 11. A lot of love and nostalgia for a lot of Final Fantasy. Bring that. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. You were the chosen one, just like every person in this MMO. Yeah, kind of. So the way that it works in 14, though, is they do acknowledge the fact that, like, there are warriors of light, but you are the warrior of light. They kind of gloss over it a little bit, but they acknowledge that you have other adventures that help you out to defeat things. But I think for a way for them to make the plot make sense for their writers, they have to write as you're the warrior of light, but yet there's other warriors of light. It's kind of crazy. Oh yeah, it's totally worth playing on console, Kaiser. If you have a PS4, it's worth it. It's still really good on PS4. It's nice on PC. I'd say it's nicer, but it's not. This guy that I'm doing the illustration from has been playing on PS4 since for like 5 years, 6 years, and he was doing end game content, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth it. It's a very casual MMO too. You can get a lot done in that game without having to be hardcore. It's nothing like the time commitments of yesteryear when it came to MMOs. So I would definitely say it's worth it. It's worth it on console. I think it's coming to Xbox One later this year or something like that. Or at least that was what some of the rumors were. But it's definitely on PS4. You'll be able to likely be able to transfer to PS5 when they eventually make that version. But yeah, if you were thinking about checking out on a console, go for it. Know what you're getting into though. It can be quite Can kind of consume you a little bit when you first get it, just like any other MMO. So be warned. Story starts out kind of slow, but in my opinion, I don't mind it, but some people do. Has a little bit of a slog at the beginning, but it really picks up once you kind of get past that level 40. And then from 50 on, it's like, ooh, it really starts kicking. And they're about to do a revamp of the Realm Reborn story. So you might want to hold off until, what is it? The next big patch, maybe a month or two. But, yeah. And I kind of felt that way too, Valentar, about the Scions. They always kind of seemed like your party members, but they're not. Like, if you... When they would, like... They don't do it all the time. They'd only do it occasionally in the story. But, like, when you would go defeat Titans, like, oh, you and your adventurers beat Titan, and they, like, have a little kind of one-off line about that. Because in the beginning, the Scions and stuff don't really work with you that much. Like, they're working with you, but they're not in there. They're not there fighting with you most of the time when you're doing your big stuff, when you're doing your big old fights. It's not till recently with, like, you know, the newest expansion that's like, oh, no, they're the ones with you because you're in an alternate world. You know, stuff like that. It's one of those things, like, the story doesn't acknowledge that there's other Warriors of Light, but has acknowledged that there were Warriors of Light. You know, I think the idea behind it is, like, you are the Warrior of Light, but there are multiple Warriors of Light. Like, there's a handful of them. But, you know, most of society doesn't know. It doesn't consider every person that plays the game a Warrior of Light, but I'd say at least a handful of people are considered Warriors of Light. You know what I mean? And I kind of prefer that canon in my mind, just because it's like, yeah, it's every Final Fantasy has been about a party of adventurers. So when I think of the canon, it's like, yeah, I think of myself as the main protagonist. But when I'm going through the story, it's always more impactful when it's like, oh, people from my FC are in the, like, fight cutscenes and stuff like that. And when I take screenshots, it's like, oh yeah, there's my buddy Azael, there's my buddy Iron. You know, they're in the backgrounds. Like, of course they'd be there to help me with this fight. Yada yada yada. But I can't imagine my one buddy as the main protagonist of the story. That guy was a goofball. Ooh, I left some of that ink not as what it should be. That's better. Alright, let's do some of the lighting now. That looks fine for that. So, drag that off. And start just... I'm just going to start kind of cutting away. I did finish Castlevania last night, which was pretty good. It does have a kind of what the fuck scene at the end of Season 3. I was like, wow, that seems... Oh yeah, I did not know that about that character. That's interesting. But that was a fun third season. Definitely leaves you with questions. Ooh. Alright, this is where we're going with this show. Alright, I'm down. As a big fan of Castlevania, as you may have noticed from Bloodstained Ritual in the Night, it makes you really happy that there's a good animated series of a video game. Some of the animation's a little stiff, but that's just because the character models are so detailed. They make up for it, though. Like, it's still a really well animated show. It just has a couple moments where it's like, man, if the models were simplified a little bit more, be a little bit easier. Hey Jack, how's it going? Yeah. But yeah, Castlevania is a good series. If you haven't checked it out, I would. If you have Netflix, it's worth a watch. Especially if you kind of like that fantasy horror stuff. It can get pretty dark though. And it can get pretty gory. It's not Devilman Crybaby levels of gore, but it's definitely not gory. Like, it doesn't shy away from, like, brutality. It's very much God of War and stuff like that in that vein, where it's like, oh, yeah, some peasants get murdered, yo, and it ain't pretty. It's very graphic in some places. Not all the time, but it's definitely not for 7-year-olds, I'll say that. It's not that cartoony violence. It's like, nope, it's straight up violence. And here I'm just kind of adding shadows that would probably get displayed by the light. I have a kind of light source in mind, but most of light source for me in terms of stuff is just, I'm just making it up. I know every artist makes it up, but there are much more proficient people at light sources than I am. For the most part, I'm like, does it look cool? Alright, I use the rule of cool a lot. Even before I knew what the rule of cool was. And I try and have it make sense though. But, you know, I'm not a 3D modeler, so I can't make this like be perfect lighting. Then again, I'm sure 3D modelers have tricks and stuff that allows them to manipulate how they want lighting to work. Main thing that I'm trying to show with this axe with my lighting right now is that it's got rivets and divots, and it'll look a lot more once you can see more of it. But yeah, making it feel it's not a clean edge axe. It's very much in that fantasy vibe where it's like, oh, it's not a polished piece of hardware, but yet it is a polished piece of hardware. If that makes sense. Yeah, and I think that's why I like Castlevania so much, is it gives me that monster vibe that I like. I like my Mike Mignola type monsters and stuff like that. My fantasy horror. Like, that's the stuff that I dig. I don't like horror stuff, but I like monsters. I've always liked monsters since I was a kid. But yet I've never really cared for the way like that D&D drew those monsters and stuff like that. It's weird. I have a weird dichotomy with that. So Final Fantasy and RPGs and stuff like that threw in monsters, I think that's one reason why I always gravitated towards that stuff. Yet I never really drew them as a kid. As a kid, monsters were not something I was always drawing. So I find that interesting, but I always gravitated towards books like that. But then Goosebumps would draw me away. So like I have a very particular version of monsters that I like, I guess. Alright, a little bit here. And a little bit there. And this is going to be a blizzard-like setting, but I'm not going to get that stuff till mostly near the end. Cool thing is, it looks weird right now, but once I start getting in the flats and stuff later after all the shadows are done, and the effects, it's going to be crazy how much this piece changes. This is like the home run stretch when I think of this. Like, we've already been through like 5 of the innings, and we're like in the 6th inning stretch right now. It's like, alright, this piece is going to be what it's going to be. Now it's just the polish stage. And just figuring out new ways to do my lighting and stuff like that. Just always thinking like the light source is around here, so I want to make sure that it's kind of going. Hellsing's one of those ones I need to check out. I've never checked out Hellsing. But I've seen good things about it too. Heard good things about it. Don't ask me why I've never checked it out. Because I don't have a good answer for you. Yeah, major light sources coming from there. But I still want some of it to be reflecting back on his front side too. So I'm going to have like a dual light source. But now that I'm remembering, I didn't finish his Paladron yet. So I need to go back and ink that because it's got some spikes on it. So let me find his picture of like that reference. Where are you? Zale? No. There's a specific image I have. Not that. that's close, though. This is the one I want. There we go. I think that's why, too. John Bologna's got home run than team. Got more home run than team wins. I'll trust you on that. Yeah, I think that's one reason why I've never got into Hellsing. It's just because I saw the amount of violence. Like, even with Devilman Crybaby, like, that violence is a little too much for me at times. Like, ugh. But the animation, the art design was so interesting that I kind of kept with it. But yeah, that show's rough too. I was not expecting that ending. Probably should have, but I'd never seen the original and never read the original. So that ending was kind of out of left field for me. That's not a right shape. That's better. I guess there'd be one more spike here. Probably like... yeah, something like that. There we go. Gotta make sure to get those in. These are kind of important. Fill that in. Probably need a little bit more detail on this bad boy before I finish the other stuff. Grab my shadow. And go ahead and fill that in. Mostly because I don't know what I'm going to do with that lighting. Alright, back to black. Get a little bit of that stuff in there. There's some kind of like differing patterns. Huh. Hey Kai, how's it going, dude? There's a little bit of stuff like that going on. And then we've got a little bit of rivet here. Nice. Okay. Oop. There we go. That should be good. Kind of add a little bit of depth right here. Just a little bit. So that the armor kind of goes in a little bit right there. Yeah. Not a big detail, but I think an important one. Cool. Yep, these things are pretty standard, but I usually put these lines in here just to show that it folds a little bit. Kind of has a little bit of an edge to it. There we go. That looks good. Might have made this one a little too big, though. I kind of like it being that. Maybe we'll just make it a little bit sharper. There we go. Now I can start erasing. I've seen some of My Hero, and I've been meaning to get back into it. Haven't heard of the other one, though. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, My Hero is fun. As long as it's not entirely. It does feel like every anime has a little bit of that in it, though. I'm with you on that, Kaiser. As long as the anime is not entirely focused on it, it doesn't bother me too much. But when it's like, when that's what it's all about, I'm like, it's okay. It's not for me. There we go. All right. Take that off. Give a little bit there. Open my window a little bit. It's getting a little stuffy in here. It's the time of year my room starts to heat up. Ooh. Bring that in. Nice. And then I'll go up and I need to grab this so I know what to do so I can fill that in without changing the color too much. Kind of want the broadness of this kind of getting most of the light. There we go. Yeah. Nope, not that. Don't show me that again. Nice. Hey Darkstar, how's it going, dude? Thanks for joining us, bud. Just working away. Making some progress. There we go. Let's see. A lot of this has to come down to with me just kind of imagining in my head if it's going to work or not. And I'll be able to rebalance things out too. If I need to. But like, I don't exactly know how light works. Like I do and I don't. So a lot of this just comes down to guessing. Just like, alright, that looks cool. Like I imagine like if a light source is hitting, it'd probably hit something like that. Especially since this is a weird light source because he's generating energy off his battle animation. So there's that too. It's funny, I meant to play the demo today for Final Fantasy XIV. I never did get around to it though. Ended up just sleeping most of the day. And then playing a little bit of Final Fantasy XIV. Took a nap before this. And somehow felt a little worse after the nap, but that usually happens. I usually never feel better about a nap. I feel more awake. But it definitely reassured the fact that, yeah, staying home was the right idea today. Body's still in full rest mode. That's probably not going to get caught by the light. That probably will, though. That's good. Let's see. Yeah, that's going to be there, too. Full Metal Alchemist is great as well. Oh, hey, I'm going to miss this. Pronounce this Kitchi-san? Kitchi-san? If I'm sorry. I'm bad at phonetics. Welcome to the stream, dude. Ghost in the Shell, I've seen that. That's great. Steins Gate is fun. JoJo, my brother really likes that. I've never gotten into it. Fate series is fun. Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is great. Both versions are fantastic. First season, first iteration. If you want a more dark, darker version of Full Metal Alchemist. And Brotherhood if you want still slightly dark, but with a tinge more light in it. Both highly awesome. Both should be... You should watch both if you're going to watch Full Metal Alchemist, though. So good. She's such a kick-ass manga artist. Dan Bones did a fantastic job taking her manga and animating it. What a beast. There we go. No, there's some other details in this, but I'm going to keep this like simplified, kind of like I have it. I don't think I want to put too much extra detail into it. I'll go back and put some other details into it for sure, but I don't think I want to overbear it. I think this design looks good as it is. I don't think I need to overdo it with design work. Yeah. That being said, it does have stuff and patterns in here. Start getting some of you guys in here. Oop. Let's duplicate you too. You need to be shifted a little bit. As do you. You're not fully in line with what you need to be. There we go. Okay. That's better. Still gonna have that little bit of a chained look to it. Probably still need a little bit, just a little bit to show it. Has some depth. Still figuring that stuff out, even after all this time. that. There we go. Need to erase a little bit here. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I gotta catch up on. I saw Kung Fu Panda 2 for the first time the other day. They just put it on Netflix. Like, hell yeah, I've never seen this one before. Pretty good. Not as good as Kung Fu Panda 1. Oh, sorry, Kitch-san. I'm using a Cintiq 21 HD. I've had it for like 7 years. It was the first model they switched. They used to only come in gray for the big desktop monitors, and this is the first one where they switched it to black, and it's been running ever since. I got this when I was in college because I was having to take out money for student loans anyways, and I had like, I want to say leftover because I still have to pay it off. I had like $2,000 or like $3,000, and my mom's like, well, is there anything that you think you need? You have this money, like it's already been taken out as a loan, so either it goes back in the loans or you can do something with it. And I decided to get this because, like, well, if I'm gonna be a professional, I need professional stuff to work on. So I ended up getting this bad boy, and this has been my bread and butter. Before that, I had a Wacom bamboo tablet, which is basically what the Intuos tablets are now, and I rocked that thing for about 4 or 5 years while I was in college. I still have a buddy that just uses an Intuos tablet. So you don't need the monitor ones to draw on, but now they're more and more convenient to get. So they are a nice option if you can afford it. Like the Wacom one is pretty good. I hear Hui, like Huieon or something like that, makes really good ones. I'm looking forward to 7. I think it's gonna be cool. I wasn't hyped at first, but the more that I've seen of it, the more it's got my nostalgia growing. Because I've said this a couple times on this stream, but I grew up drawing Final Fantasy VII characters. Final Fantasy VII was the first time I was introduced to it. I still remember being in middle school, in band class, and my friend Ken was talking about RPGs and stuff. I was like, what's an RPG? And then he kind of described it. I played Super Mario RPG and stuff like that. And he was talking about this game called Final Fantasy VII. I had no idea what it was. Had no inkling how much that would influence me as an artist. 6th grade at the time, and then my uncle has it, and I kind of like start learning more about it, researching more about Final Fantasy VII. I'm like, oh, this game looks rad. I totally want to play this game. But when I was growing up, my mom wouldn't even let me watch Power Rangers for the longest time. Not in a bad way. She didn't really know, so she was very protective about what we watched, and she was good about that. Like, it didn't bother me because I was still watching Animaniacs, so like, what did I care? But yeah, I still remember the first time I was told what about the game Final Fantasy VII, and I spent most of my middle school years drawing Cloud and Barrett and Tifa, Aerith, Vincent. I always really liked Vincent. I think that's where my love for like vampires and like Castlevania stuff first like kind of started manifesting into the anime realm. I just thought Vincent was the shit. I saw Vincent's design, I'm like, that is rad. And I don't even like black and red, but I was like, this design fucking kills. I love this shit. Cloud with his spiky hair and the giant buster sword. I'd never seen anything like that. That was like one of my first forays into anime, and it was around the same time that I started watching, that I had been to Dragon Ball Z for a while. So I dived right in. 12 is a great game. I'm replaying through 12 right now. 7 isn't even on my top 5 Final Fantasies as well, but it's probably number 1 on my most nostalgic. Like, it has a special place for me because it was my first Final Fantasy, but it's not my favorite Final Fantasy. I like Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 12. 11 and 14 I kind of give asterisks because they're MMOs, but they're easily the top 2. But I'd say if we're talking about single player ones, like 12 is probably number 1 in terms of single player games. Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 4. I like 5 a lot too. I like a lot of the oddball ones. 7's probably like my number 6 on my list or something like that. Like number 6, it might even be number 7. I'll tell you which one's at the bottom though. It's Final Fantasy 13. That game did not jive with me. What kind of game doesn't put the victory theme in a Final Fantasy? That's fucking blasphemous. How is that not in there? Even 12 worked it in. 13 is just like, we don't need it. It's like, you fucking took out one of the most iconic... You took out the iconic fanfare. That and just... It's been a trend of Final Fantasies since that game to like not to have like really great lore and then just be really bad at telling that lore. Oh yeah, I like 15 way more than 13. I thought 15 was way more fun to play, and I thought there was more stuff about it that was interesting than 13. 13 was just kind of a slog. Yeah, it was Lightning. I didn't even hate Lightning. Like, there's some none of the characters. Lightning was fine. I liked Fang, but for the most part, the characters were just uninteresting. I didn't like Saz. I didn't like Snow. I liked their designs. Just didn't really care for the characters. Like Saz was Saz was probably the only character that was like, oh, he has an arc. That's cool. Rest of the characters, though, I don't know. Just they didn't hit it. Probably because I was like, man, 11 did such a good job. 12 was so good. And they just did not deliver. I don't think, in terms of like Final Fantasy 13 being an RPG, though, in terms of RPGs, it's a good RPG. It's a 7 out of 10. It, like, if you're ranking amongst all the best RPGs ever made, it's a lot higher. But Final Fantasy has a pedigree. So, yeah. So it falls short. But I'll never knock someone for putting 13 higher on the list, because it's not bad. Like, it's not, oh, this game's a fucking train wreck. This isn't Lost Odyssey. Not Lost Odyssey. This isn't Last Remnant. Like, it's a good RPG. It just, the story just doesn't hold up as much. Like, you read Noval, like, you, like, look at the lore and stuff that they have set up for that. It's like, it's interesting. There's some interesting stuff that they were going to propose with that. The idea for the characters is good, but just, you mix in boring gameplay with, you know, a combat system that's just uninspiring, that feels like it's Final Fantasy. They're like, well, we ran out of ideas after Final Fantasy XII, so here's this combat system from 10 again, because we don't know what to do with Final Fantasy. That was part of it. Like, every Final Fantasy had introduced something new to it, and it felt like 13 didn't bring anything that new to the table. I think that hurt it as well. And 12 was divisive amongst people. I think 12 is seen in a higher light than it used to, which I say poppycock, because 12 is and remains to be brilliant. Such a fantastic game. I think the only gripe you can have with 12 is like, well, if you play the game really well, you're barely playing the game. Which, to that point, yeah, kind of right. I liked Arden too. I think that's what sold it for me, is I can't tell you who was the enemy in 12. Who is the bad guy? Who is the antagonist? Some weird crystal god spirit? It's the same problem that, what's the game that has, it was on Wii. Really good, like Xenoblade Chronicles. Great game, great main cast of characters. I can't tell you who the villain was. And if you can't tell me who the villain was in a game, that is usually not a great sign. Like, even in Final Fantasy XII, even if you kind of forget who the villain is, you're like, oh no, it was the dude with the hair, it was the Empire. You're like, okay, cool. Hey Pat, you're good. You kind of remember, like, you kind of vaguely remember. Final Fantasy VII, like, you know it's Sephiroth. Final Fantasy IX, you know it's Kuja. I mean, there's more to it than that, but, like, you know who your main villain is. And 13 just is so ambiguous that I can't even picture, like, there was that Pope guy. That's it? That's all I remember? Thanks, Pat. Like, that's all I remember about 13. And I didn't hate 13, but it is a fair, legitimate gripe that's like, yeah, the gameplay, by the time it opens up to, like, for you to do and explore and stuff, which, that's one of the best parts about RPGs is exploring. You know? I love that at the beginning of 12, there's so much stuff you can explore right off the bat in that game. like there's areas that are walled off, but like they give you a big kind of playground. Like you don't even have to like. I've been replaying it, and there are points in the story where it's like, yeah, you can go fucking almost anywhere in that game and kind of go anywhere you want. 6, 7, and 8 and 15 are good ones. 6 is great. 7's great. 8's great. You know, none of them are train wrecks. Honestly, none of them are so bad that's like, oh, you played that game. Why? No Final Fantasy has that. So when people over bitch about 13, I get a little annoyed. But I still stand by it being probably the worst Final Fantasy, but still a good RPG. There are much worse RPGs. Go play Blue Dragon if you want to play a bad RPG. Game looks great. God. What a mediocre game, though. I love Akira Toriyama. He's one of my biggest influences. But even he couldn't save that game from just not being interesting. Like, people are like, oh, I love old school turn-based RPGs. I do too, but I love the classic ones. And the classic ones like Chrono Trigger and stuff like that did stuff to make the formula interesting. Blue Dragon kind of went with that original concept, but failed to actually add anything interesting in terms of like leveling up and other stuff. So it's very stagnant. Yeah. And I can understand that, because at that point in 13, you're like, well, when I got to that point in 13, I got to as like, all right, well, so you guys want me to explore now? It's like, no, man, I've been playing this game for like, I don't know, 40 hours at that point. It's like, I just want to finish the story now. I want to see where this ends. I want to finish the scenario. So it doesn't really, I don't want to explore this world. I just want the story to be done. I kind of, at that point, it's like, you've lost my interest. You no longer have me for that portion of the game anymore. I'm kind of checked out. Like, I still want to finish your game because I'm too far in it to call it quits, but I feel like world exploration needs to start off very soon when you're playing a game like that. When you're playing any RPG, just because it's so important. There needs to at least be the taste. Even if things are blocked off, you need to be able to explore enough of it. Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, all the great Final Fantasies, you know, there's a set path they want you to go on. And there might be some cities you can't go in. But in pretty much most RPGs, the good ones, you can kind of just go explore. You can go off and go do your own thing. Now, you may have to eventually go do this story, but it gives you the illusion of choice, where it's like, oh, I could go all the way to this town. I don't need to be here, but I can't. Pokemon, like, there's a set path for you to go, but if you want, there's ways to get around stuff. There's illusions of choice. There's illusions of like, hey, you can go this way. You can do this thing. And I like that in my RPGs. In the beginning of Chrono Trigger, you can go all the way to the other continent at the very beginning of the game. You can get some money, hop a boat, go to Poor, and chill out over there. You don't have to be there. There's nothing really to do over there, but you can. And that's a big deal. 13 wants to play it like a movie, like a Metal Gear game, but unlike Metal Gear, you're not invested enough in that plot at that point. Metal Gear 1 and like Metal Gear 2, they're at least smart about, like, they have tons of cutscenes, right? But the thing that Kojima always does with those games is you start off like pretty quickly into combat. Like, you're already in a mission from the get-go. Like Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, it's Snake infiltrating something. You'll have like a 15-minute opener, and then after that, it's like you're in the combat. And then he'll, like, as the story gets more deep, he'll have more and more cutscenes and layer it out. But, you know, he knows to get you into the game right away. He's like, all right, we got to get you in there. We got to get you playing. I want you to know what this is like. And 13 it just failed on some of those aspects. That said, I have friends that's the first Final Fantasy they played, and they fucking love it. So, you know, it's all about your perspective. I just think that's the reason why 13 didn't do as well. I think that's why 15 is more interesting, because 15 kind of does the Breath of the Wild thing. They kind of give you stuff to explore right off the bat. I do think 15 has a lot of failings. I think 15, because of Nomura, got way too bogged down by stuff to a certain point. So, like, it kind of suffered for it. You know? But yeah. 30 minutes of channeling death of the giant mountain turtle and its model go horribly warped from death effects, laughing at it. Yeah. Yeah, if it's turn-based, you have to have pizzazz. Like, Chrono Trigger has kind of like active time battle, and they have like the cross, they have the double text and triple text and stuff like that to keep it interesting. Final Fantasy VII has the limit break and the active time battle, which was ATB scale, which was newish for that game. I think it was introduced first for in 4, it might have been, but it got really refined in 7. 8 has the junction system, 7 has the materia system, 9 doesn't have that much. 9 is very much a throwback, but the characters and the plot and the world and the art direction are so interesting that it keeps you hooked as you're going through it. So that's what that has going for it. And they have the trance system, but the trance system's kind of, it's whatever. It's not bad, but it's not great. But they have Tetramaster too, and they have like the ability of illusion of moving around and like exploration stuff of the old Final Fantasies. So there is that as well. Yeah. I mean, in video games, the whole point of them, the whole reason we like them is escapism. We like being transported to different worlds. You know, it's nice to have a linear experience every now and then, but RPGs typically are fairly easy. They're not usually too complicated. They're usually not too hard, mostly because they are pretty much turn-based. They are about the story. They are about exploration. They are about the sense of adventure. And if you take that sense of adventure away, it really kills the experience. Because you always got to remember, no one cares about your story at the very beginning. And I think Final Fantasy just assumed, like, well, we're Final Fantasy. They're just going to care. It's like, no, you got to give us a reason to care. We got to have characters. We got to have, you know, you got to set this up so that we want to care about this stuff. And I just think that 13 didn't do the greatest job of that. That said, I don't regret playing it. I had a fine time playing 13. I just wish they were able to improve upon some of it. I think 15 improves on some of it, but there are aspects of that game where that failed too. Those alternate DLC stuff is great, but I feel like that was Nomura's fault more than anything, that game didn't do as well a story. It's the same reason why Kingdom Hearts 3 story is kind of botched. Yeah, 8 did kind of do that. And 8 doesn't have like the greatest. Some people really like 8's story. I think I'm not indifferent, but I'm just like, it didn't hit me as hard, but I still liked playing through it. Yeah. Let's make a Zale. This armor is what he sent me. Let me see. Let me find his picture. Not that. Not that. Zale commission. It's mostly black and gold. Yeah, he dyed it black. That's very much like him. Let's give it a burnt umber. And this is shadows. Nice. Okay, cool. Can't really see a ton of it, but that's going to be that's fine for now. You know, I might want to lighten it up for now until I actually finish all the flats for him. Just so I can kind of see that lighting while I'm doing the Garleans. Alright. Duplicate. Shadow. Ooh. Wrong. And then what did I decide for the lighting for these guys? Okay. Something like that. Oh, I have so much chat blocked off. Let me try and bring that back. Felt like 15 was just very empty. It did feel very empty and was big and stuff, but the story was spread so thin. Yeah, no, it really did. That's its biggest flaw, Valentara, is definitely that the DLCs add a lot to flesh out that game. It's just a bummer because like that should be part of the complete experience. And when you get all of that, it definitely makes it feel a bit more whole. But that is 15's biggest weakness. I think that the characters that they created are interesting. I think the 4 dudes and I think their traveling story, I think they're all endearing. But yeah, it's one of those things, like the fact that you have to go watch the movie and you have to watch the anime thing to get more of those characters' backstory is a flaw. They think it's a cool media experience, but it's not. It's a flaw because everything should be presented in the game. I shouldn't have to go watch other stuff, and I did, and I appreciated it more for that. But you know, that's a major faux pas, a major like lack of awareness on their part. You know, I should be able to get those relationships through the game itself. But yeah, I think that's 15's biggest thing. I thought the combat was fun. I thought the leveling up system was okay. I think it's just because there was a world to explore, that's why it goes up higher. I'm not sure where I'd put 15 on my top Final Fantasy games, honestly. It's probably near the bottom, but not in like a, oh man, this game was trash kind of bottom. It was more like, it's probably at the bottom just because there's so many good Final Fantasies. But not in like a, I can't stand this game type of deal. Probably above 13. There might be something that might be... I might put Final Fantasy 3 just below 15. Just because 3 is... It's interesting, but it's not that great. I played the remake. It just doesn't hit very hard. It's fine. But if like I was to recommend an old school Final Fantasy for people to play, I tell them to go play 5 first. It's just more refined and the story's more interesting. They try to make the plot more interesting by redoing stuff, by kind of reimagining the plot a little bit, or more fleshing out the plot for 3 with the remake. But it's more like it's a completionist game. Like, oh, you've played all the Final Fantasies? Have you played 3 yet? You should probably go check that out. Yeah. Prompto, he might have been. Who knows? Movies and anime, played all the DLC except for Arden. I played the first DLC, but I didn't ever get around to the other ones. Just because by the time they all came out, I was kind of done with that game. I was just kind of waiting for them to release more. I might do it now, but it's always really hard for me to want to come back for story DLC. It's not that it's a bad thing, and I understand that it takes time, but I move on. Nice. Yeah. I'm trying to remember who was the reason why I started going to the gym. That's one thing that bums me out. I constantly keep getting sick. Is just every time I'm in a good groove for working out, I hit a pipe or hit like a threshold because oh no, I need that to make that way smaller. I get screwed over because I get sick even when I'm about to ramp it up, which is kind of what's happened right now. It's like, all right, time to ramp it up again, and sick again. It's like, fucking, come on, bod, can we stop? Guess it could be worse. Catch a little bit of rim light. Catch a little bit of rim. little bit there. A little bit here. Yeah, it's funny. When I first started 14, the story does start out kind of slow, but as it's been built over time, it probably is. Probably is the best single Final Fantasy story. It takes all the elements that you love about other previous ones, and it's just continued to get better and better. Final Fantasy XI, too, is up there as well. It unfortunately doesn't get a lot of love because it's not voice acted, it's not a single player game, so not a lot of people know, but that game's story for its first arc, or like its original main story, is right up there with the best of Final Fantasy stuff. And I think that's why 13 was so disappointed. And it was just like, man, they had so many good acts to follow, and then they kind of just kind of botched it. But I mean, they've gone on the record now and said like they just didn't know what they were doing with the Final Fantasy series. They didn't know where to go when this new generation after 12. And it's not too surprising. It kind of shows. But I feel like now with Yoshida on like the board of directors and stuff, and having some new blood in charge, you know, they'll be able to re-put Final Fantasy back to like where it's supposed to be. Because I feel like Yoshida, who is the producer for 14, understands Final Fantasy better than anybody has in the longest time. He knows what the fans love about it, and he always seems to put the right people in charge when it comes to writing that and stuff. I always find that impressive. Because, I mean, he's not the lead writer on any of it, but he does help for the plots and bring them forward, and does seem to always channel what people dig about this stuff. So kudos to him and his team of people, because they have been nailing it for a while. Erase that. Erase that. Come on, go away. There we go. There we go. Oh. You thought the Gladio DLC was the worst? That was actually what made me really like the DLC. I really liked fighting Gilgamesh. I thought Gladio's DLC was interesting, and that made me interested in the other ones. It's probably the worst out of all of them, but when I played it, it was the only one that was available. So for me, I was like, oh cool, they're fleshing out these characters. That's gonna be great when they do the other ones. I heard Prompto was good. I think I watched Prompto's online. That's what I'll probably end up doing, honestly, is start just watching all those DLCs. But I like that, like, there was a story behind, like, their changes and stuff like that. Sure, Ignis's was good, too. Get that in there. Oh. Really? I like Stormblood. I like Stormblood a lot, actually. I think Stormblood, I felt like... Really? I thought Yotsu was cool. I liked her arc. I liked it with her brother. I thought the redemption arc for her was interesting, and I thought it was a great way of showing what the Empire has done to other people. Because, you know, they always talk about how evil and how bad the Empire is, and yeah, we kind of see it with some things, but it was interesting to see it through an NPC, a main NPC. So, I mean, I'm going to have to disagree there. I liked Yotsu's story. I liked all of Stormblood, actually, a lot. I thought the thing that Stormblood did really well was introduce new, interesting characters. I feel like Shadowbringers, as cool as the plot was, there's only really one character that I thought was interesting, and that was the main villain. I thought he was interesting. Crystal Xcart, he was already introduced before, you know, and the other side characters just did not hit it. But, like, Stormblood overall, with, like, Yotsuyu, Fidola, I'm probably mispronouncing her name, the different people in the Resistance camp, seeing how the Scion's transformations and stuff like that. I thought, like Yida and stuff like that, I thought Stormblood was great. I thought Stormblood did really good at introducing new characters to the world and fleshing that out. But the problem that Stormblood had is its overall plot was pretty simple. There's not really going to be a lot of twists and turns. But for me, Stormblood hit hard. Yeah, I love Stormblood. Stormblood was my expansion. It also introduced Red Mage, so maybe I'm biased. But to me, it's all one story. I kind of have this argument with people every now and then. They're like, oh yeah, Shadowbringer's story slaps compared to Stormblood. It's like, yeah, but if you didn't have Stormblood, you wouldn't have all the setup that makes Shadowbringers as great as it is. You know? Or people are like, well, the Heavensward expansion was the best one. It's like, Heavensward was actually a shitty expansion. Great story, shitty expansion. Added cool jobs, but it was a mess. They were really trying to figure out what they wanted to do with that game. Things were horribly imbalanced. Most of the raiding community quit. Crafting was abysmal. You know, Diadem was a failure multiple times. A lot of experimentation, but it wasn't until like the very end of like Heavensward where they finally started getting stuff right again. And Shadowbringers was just a great expansion because it took all the lessons they learned from Heavensward and like just really doubled down on what's good and what's bad about it. I do want to see her come back, and I think she will. Diadem 3 will be cool. I'm down for that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to hate on Heavensward because I think the world and all the lore stuff in Heavensward is fucking baller. I love that shit. There's a lot of good stuff. The gear looked really cool, you know, but they messed up in a lot of ways, and the biggest thing was just the raiding scene. They screwed that up so bad. And I don't blame them for it. They were listening to what they thought the community wanted, and the community was fucking wrong. Like, they were freaking dead wrong, and they went too hard on the balancing. And now it's perfect. Now they've got a perfect balance. They've got savages, they've got ultimates. 14 is in a really good place. And a big reason for that is Stormblood. It's almost all because of Stormblood, because they just realized like what's fun, what's not. And they kept adding new things to the game and trying new stuff. So yeah. Stormblood was like our kind of it was more of like a reaffirmation patch. It was like a reaffirmation expansion, like, okay, this game's going in a good direction. And now it's even better with Shadowbringers. Like, they've continued to improve. And that's why I could always kept my sub up. Because they've continued to make it worth my money to play that game. It continues to elevate that formula. And be something that I'm wanting to come back over and over again. Alright, I think I need to hide a Zale really quick. Just in case I move this Joker, I need to see a little bit of his underlighting. But yeah, it doesn't mean Stormblood was perfect. Like, I can understand the arguments that people are like, yeah, Xenos is kind of not fleshed out. And stuff like that. So, I mean, I get that. I thought Xenos was fine. I like a mad kind of Kefka character every now and then. But I've had friends who played 14 that didn't really like Xenos that much. I thought he was great. I think if he continued to be that character, it would have been boring. But I think having that kind of level of sadism is fun in a fantasy genre. That's so interesting, though. I mean, I've heard that from a couple other people, but I started out as a monk, in 14, and I was super excited for Alamigo. So when we finally got the Alamigo setting and got the Asia setting as well, I was hooked. And I love the plot of like the main prince of of the Asian continent that we get to talk with and deal with. I thought he was great. I loved his character arc. I love Gosetsu. I was fucking thriving in it. I loved the Azim Steppes. I loved all the dungeons. I loved the world that they were giving us to play in. Everything about that expansion just, oof, it hit. And for me, it wasn't uninspiring, but I think when some people say that too, is like, I did all the jobs, I leveled everything up, I did all the expanded stories, and like it really felt super fleshed out. I felt like I finally got the whole other continent of Eorzea. I finally got that last bit of it. So I was super excited for that. Like, I think a reason a lot of people were disappointed by that expansion is they really thought we were going to Garlemald in that expansion. And then when people found out that we were going to Asia, like the Asian style continent, they're like, oh, that's cool. But then most people were like, well, I wanted more of that. But it's like, I don't know. You kind of need a little bit of both. Like, I loved how much it fleshed out the worlds and all the characters it introduced. So to me, the story didn't feel uninspired. It just felt like that's where the story naturally needed to go. And I thought it was interesting because it's given us now so many cool characters. Now, I will say that the Storm Shadowbringers plot hits really hard, but I don't know. I don't like separating them in my mind. I don't like being like, this is part this is part. It's like, there's seasons of an anime, in a sense. There's seasons of a show. Like season 1 was 1.0, season 2 was A Realm Reborn, season 3 is Heaven's Word, season 4 is Stormblood, season 5 is Shadowbringers, and like nothing about the plots are bad, but like without the one before it, it's not that story. Like, it's all one story. Now you can like one segment of the story or a season better than it. That's totally fine. That's just how my mind treats it. I've just had many arguments with people over being like, Shadowbringer's story sucks. I'm like, it didn't suck. Like, come on. But then they're like all raving about Shadowbringers. I'm like, the whole plot of Shadowbringers doesn't work without most of the setup that Stormblood does, right? Like, the ever-looming threat adds a lot of depth to what's going on in Shadowbringers. Like, there's this whole thing. It's like, we gotta fucking get back. Like, shit's not good over here. It's not all peaches and cream. Like, we need to go. We need to get back here. So, yeah. Like, I like to keep them that way. But I also understand if people are like, man, I really like where 14 story is going. I think Shadowbringers does a better job. I'm okay with that, too. Get his old butt cheek going in here. Yeah. There we go. Nice. But that's just my 2 cents on it. That said, 14's a great game. If you haven't played it, you should. If you have the time. Though I will say, it's not like I said, it's not demanding like other MMOs used to be. It's definitely more forgiving in terms of time management. Like, you can do a roulette, like 1 or 2 roulettes, maybe do like play for an hour a day, hour and a half, and you'll get a lot done in that amount of time. 14 is very conscious about making sure that you get to spend your time wisely. Something I greatly respect. Like, you could spend all day playing it, don't get me wrong. Very easily. But you don't have to. You can very much just be a minimalist and only spend a little bit of time and still feel like you get stuff done, which is a very nice feeling. I hate when games waste your time, and we've talked about it a bunch on the channel. on our Let's Plays, but I hate when games don't respect your time and they give you mediocre bullshit to do. It's like, give me the fun stuff. If it's not fun, why am I doing it? Now, there's certain instances, obviously, where that's, you know, not always true. There's certain moments in games where it's like doing the chores is supposed to because it's supposed to make you feel a certain way, yada, yada, yada. I'm talking in general, though. Games should be fun. If the element you have in your game isn't fun, you should just take it out then, because why is it there? I do enough mediocre bullshit in my own life as an adult. Why do I have to do it here? That being said, what are you guys playing lately? Oh. So, my thoughts are just the story could have been much better portrayed. Every time they tried to do something, it felt like it came out weird and janky, like the whole arcs and stuff. I think there was maybe a little bit of stuff where it wasn't super smooth on the transition, like them going to the east, but in general, I guess I just didn't feel the jank. The jank didn't seem like there. There's been times and stuff where it's like I felt it, but not so much there. How much did you like having to redo the robot grabbing oil section in Nier? Yeah, that wasn't that bad because it's only like 2 minutes, but if it got on longer, I might have lost my shit. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't see the jank as much in Stormblood. Like, I didn't feel like the story felt that janky. Like, I felt like it was maybe a little janky for them to go all the way to the east, but at the same time, they'd been setting that up since 2.0. Like, they've been setting up that since the Realm Reborn, so, like, I was ready. Like, we'd been, you know, we had that character in the game since 2.2 or something like that. So by the time we get to go to her homeland, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. I'm stoked. Let's do this. 3 houses? Cool. Never heard of that. Oh, and a bit of Lisa the Pointless. Is Lisa the Pointless an official game, or is it one of the like fan-made ones? I'm not sure how all of Lisa works. Because I know that like the creator made one game, but then he allowed people to have the source code and like go ahead and make more because he was like, nah, I'm done. You guys have fun. I think I need to get a little bit of shadow in here. That said, like with any RPG and stuff and any story, there is always some kind of jank that happens here and there. And sometimes I just let it roll. Sometimes like, it's a little janky, but I'll roll with it. Just to see what the overall plot is. I'm also from Ul'dah, so like Raubon's story and stuff like that really hits home, and being a monk. So going to Alamigo and all that stuff, and then the Eastern Continent, which I've been wanting to play in a Final Fantasy game since 11 first teased it. So there's a lot of reasons why that game, that expansion specifically, works so well for me. I mean, I also really liked Eureka and stuff like that. So that expansion slaps. In my humble opinion. Pointless is a fan-made game. The main series is Lisa the First, the Painful, and the Joyful. Oh, okay. But that said, I'll never fully disagree with someone when they're like, nah, it just didn't hit for me, because, you know, stories hit differently for everybody. I just like defending Stormblood because it feels like there's been a not an outcry from the 14 community, but there's been like this nostalgia boner for Heaven's Word. I'm like, did you forget how bad Heaven's Word was? Did you forget how much of a pain in the ass that expansion was in some ways? Like, story-wise, sure, it was great, but everything else was kind of fucking a train wreck. And then people will always like, yeah, Stormblood was the worst. I'm like, fucking hell it was. You're out of your goddamn mind. That one I'll fight tooth and nail. That one I'll fight hard. Because it's just like, I led a raid group through Heaven's Word, and it was... God, it was painful. It was so painful. It made me quit raiding. I mean, mostly because I was becoming a teacher. But that would just... It made raiding not fun. Any little thing could have made it so, like, you didn't pass a fight. Any little time one person made one minor mistake, it was all, like, ultimate level fights. Just, like, it was just such bullshit. The difficulty would just curve, like, super hard and super fast. God. Everything was, like, the rotations and stuff are so strict now. Way more than Heaven's Word, way more than A Realm Reborn. Yeah, that expansion was fucking rough. And that might be why I like, when I think of Stormblood, I like it so much more. Maybe it's because I wasn't raiding. And I just got to enjoy it, enjoy all the different parts of it. At a casual pace. Maybe that's why. It's all about perspective, I guess. I think that's good for him. Flushing and flying back. I think I need to get a little bit more in here. Because I don't want to dismiss anyone's points when they have negatives to say about Stormblood. I do like hearing them. It's fun to debate that stuff. Whoop. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. It fell flat in some parts. I can understand why it would fall flat for some people. And I do agree, some parts could have been a little bit more polished. I think also when I think of expansions, I also think of like the build up to them. So I think about... I also include like the stuff, when I think of Stormblood, I still think of the point series after that and how it leads up and the stuff and all the setup. So I consider that when I think of Stormblood, I consider all that stuff part of it as well. But yeah, no, there are definite parts that there could have been a little bit more polish for Stormblood. There are certain segments where it's like, all right, this could have used a little bit more. I thought the ending stuck hard. I think they nailed the landing. I think the build up to that was really good. I think the part that it suffers from is a little bit in that middle section when it transitions from Alamigo to Othard. Definitely loses a little bit of pacing in there. I think it's interesting, but it definitely loses a little bit of its momentum when it transitions continents. Like somewhere in the middle portion, it like kind of floats a little bit, and then it picks back up again, and it kind of stalls a little bit, and then it kind of goes back. Now I was fine with that, and I will say that like in terms of pacing, Shadowbringers is better. Shadowbringers has better pacing overall. Shadowbringers also has the role quests, which I think the role quests are fucking... If you haven't done all the role quests, you have to. That is such good shit. That stuff is baller. That stuff is good. Yeah. I mean, it's one story, but yeah, it's... I think the reason why Stormblood happened the way it did with going with 2 continents is because they were like, there's barely anything left of Eorzea. We have to go somewhere else. We have to do this because there's just not enough to fill out a whole expansion with just, you know, Girabania. There's just not enough. There's not enough interest to do there. Like, there's 2 areas we can squeeze out of it. So like, okay, let's get the more bang for our buck. Let's move over to Oathard. But by doing that, then Oathard feels a little less fleshed out because you really are only getting half and half, you know. So I think it was a really smart solution for the problem that they were presented with. And I do think it brought out the world and fleshed out the world even more. But what's has me really, really excited for the next one with Ilsabard being like going to the last great continent of the known world in 14. Ooh. I'm hyped. I'm hyped for that. I'm a lore junkie. I love like just diving into that stuff. And 14 just has oodles, and Koji Fox just does such a good job with that franchise. Him and his team. They're such pros. And it's not surprising. Koji worked on Final Fantasy XI. I didn't know that until way after I played, but makes sense to me. He started on 11 as a translator. Koji's my boy. What a freaking nerd. Yeah, I can talk about 14 all day. Same with like 11 and other things that I'm just really passionate about. There's just a lot to love about that game. Like, there's bad stuff too, but there's never been a better time to play that game in my mind. It's in such a good groove right now that it's really figured out. It's figured out its identity. And for some people, that's bad, but for me, it's just like, okay, it knows exactly what it is. And I think when someone knows what their identity is, it really shows. And I just love the fact that I feel like I can do stuff in that game without feeling like I have to be hardcore. I don't have to have my 11. I can stop playing that game for a month. Or like 3 months and then come back and I'll be fine. I don't feel like I have to play it every day. And I'll usually kind of do that. Like, there'll be times where it's like, I won't touch that game for like maybe a month. And then I'll come back and I'll have like, oh, cool, I want to do this. Now, I've been playing Shadowbringers a little bit more than I was in Stormblood. Stormblood, I would have like significant breaks in between. Like, during like whenever like patches would go out. But Shadowbringers has been a bit more of a more constant ebb and flow, but I've also been taking things a little bit slower. I kind of did everything in Shadowbringers really early. Not Shadowbringers, Stormblood really early, so by time I got to like patch 5.3 or something like that, or 4.3, whatever it was, I was like, alright, I'll come back when patches hit, otherwise I'm out for a while. Now I've almost hit that with 14, because I've almost leveled up all the jobs in Shadowbringers. And I think once I do that, then there will be like this sense of like, oh, I'm only going to probably play a little bit casually in between patches. But yeah, hell of a tight game. Boy, are there any games that you're looking forward to that are coming out soon? I really want to play Eastbound when that comes out. I'm still waiting on the Cuphead DLC. What else? 7's exciting. Obviously. I don't really focus on AAAs that much anymore. It really comes down to like indie titles for a lot of that stuff. Silksong will be cool. But Chris will be the one playing it. I'll just be tagging along doing stupid voices, which will be fun. Yeah, I don't know. There isn't anything like crazy because like I don't know in Breath of the... I don't really get hyped anymore for like games coming out like I used to when I was a kid. I still want to play them, but I don't get hyped like the way that I used to like when I was younger, and I don't know why that is. I still really enjoy my time with it. I guess it's to save myself from being disappointed. I think the last time I was super hyped for something was episode 7 of Star Wars, I guess. And then like I was so disappointed by that movie that I've tempered my excitement levels since when it comes to something like a project or whatnot, because I just don't want to be disappointed by it. Or, well, the last one I got really excited for was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I got super excited for that. I love Marvel vs. Capcom. I love it so much. And the gameplay was fun as hell in that, but it died so quickly. It's just a huge letdown. Which is such a bummer, because that gameplay, I still stand by it. I'm with Maximilian, dude, on that. Where, like, the gameplay for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is baller. It's really good, but it just looks ugly, and its story is laughable. Go watch me and Chris play through it. He makes fun of it the whole time for good reason. Played that when that came out. That was $100 I'm never getting back. Then again, I'd probably do it all over again. I'd still buy that $100 game. Because I'm an idiot. Let's lower that. That's a bit easier to see. It does still hurt, man, Kaiser. It does. Because it's such a good game wrapped around so much bullshit. And then Capcom and more so Marvel. Marvel really pulled the plug on it from what I've researched, and them just not giving it what it needed to be. Too much controlling, too much telling what it needed to look like, all this other stuff. Man. Because 3 was so good. I mean, 3's meta got bad near the end with Phoenix, but 3 was fucking killer. And from a visual standpoint, it's one of my favorite looking games. They basically said, like, what if we made it look like Beautiful Joe? What if we take that comic book aesthetic of, like, Mike Mignola, put it in a game? God. That game kills. Game's so good. I'm hyped to see MVC2 at EVO this year. That's going to be fun. God, will EVO happen this year? Oh, no. I didn't even think about that. It's probably far enough out that it probably won't get delayed. It'll probably get just delayed to summer. I need my Evo, man. I need it. Sorry, Valentara. I'll look at this. Biggest gripe was Yatsu, mostly because Amnesia feels lazy. You can get with ideas, you can punish someone for their crimes when they're in front of another person to commit. But it felt... I mean, it's fair to be tired of the Amnesia plot. I don't know. It didn't bother me so much because 14 had never done... The thing that I took with it, 14 had never done the Amnesia thing yet. Not really. So I was like, this is their one Amnesia plot. Alright, I'll give it to them here. But I can also get behind 100% where someone is just like, nah, that's lazy. Because it's a trope. It's been used so many times. But at the same time, Final Fantasy VII has Amnesia. You know? So I the only thing I ask is, like, if you're going to hold that one accountable, we got to hold 7 accountable too then. I guess the argument for there would be, well, 7 was one of the first ones to do it. It's like, well, yeah, then you have that as well as a counter argument, and it's a good counter argument. Not that you're arguing that. No. I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying that you're saying that, Valentara. But at the time when it did Amnesia in Final Fantasy VII, it wasn't a trope like it is now in RPGs. 7 was like the first one to have that Amnesia plotline. Almost no other game at the time was really doing that. So when 7 did that, it was fresh still. I think Amnesia is still an okay plot device as long as it's not overused. I think if 14 was to do it again, I'd be like, come on, guys. But I can get behind that. I can understand someone just seeing a plot line like that and just being like, eh, that's why they don't like it. I do think they could have told that arc without her having amnesia. But I still liked her arc and how she kind of came full circle and kind of had her own redemption arc. I thought that was... Some people didn't like it, but I thought that was interesting from that standpoint, that even as someone as messed up as that, like, it was just interesting to see the characters of 14 have to deal with that and kind of come with that kind of, like, how do we approach this? Like, can people redeem? And I thought it was a nice parallel to Fidola's story as well. I do think Fidola has a better version of that, but I was really invested in Gosetsu, so I think that's why I like the Yotsuyu arc. And the thing with her brother and stuff like that, I just thought it was interesting. But I agree that amnesia plots are, overplayed. And should be avoided if at all costs. I think The Witcher does it all right, but The Witcher also has an amnesia plot line for the games, for that very first one, and even for the little bit of the second one. I feel like that plays a little bit easier just because it doesn't really matter that Geralt doesn't really remember because you don't know the world yet, so it's like, all right, whatever. It's kind of told a little bit differently. So I think it works a little bit better than there. But that's interesting. I'm glad to hear that perspective, though. Because that does crystallize probably what some people do feel about that specific Yotsuyu plot. Because in general, I'm open to hearing people's ideas and reasons for why they don't like a story. I just want to hear the actual reasons. It always bothers me when someone just says, like, oh, I didn't like it. And it's like, all right, but define what about it didn't you like? And isn't it a reasonable gripe? And I'd say just because, like, you see amnesia plot lines and they're, just not that interesting. I'm like, yeah, no, that's reasonable. And you come from it with a measured response too. But a lot of critics and a lot of people that break stuff down don't always, they think they do, but they don't always really give that kind of response. Oy. Yeah. And I don't think he was meant to be empathized with. I think you were just supposed to hate him. You're like, this guy is a fucking shitbag. God, I can't stand him. I think Fordola is going to come back in a big way in the next expansion. That's why she's still around. I think that's the main reason why she's still here. Like, 14 has always been really good about remembering characters and remembering to use them. Like, they do tons of callbacks. They do tons of things to be like, nope, that character's still relevant. They're still doing shit. They're very much like a good D&D campaign, where it's like, no, just because you're not seeing them doesn't mean stuff's not happening in the background. Doesn't mean that there isn't machinations happening, that people aren't planning stuff. Like, other people are going on with their lives. Something that Chris always reiterates whenever we're playing D&D is like, no, remember, guys, they're doing shit over somewhere else that you have no idea about. I'm thinking about that stuff. And good story writers think about that. I feel like amnesia works better when it's the main character. That way you feel like you're as informed as the character. Not a huge fan with other characters. I think that's a good... I think that's what breaks down why amnesia works in some things. It works when you're the main character because you're filling in the plot holes. Sometimes it can be bad. I haven't done the 80 Summoner quest yet. My friend keeps telling me I need to do all the finisher quests for 80s. They're all just sitting there as red markers. I don't know why I'm saving them. I think I'm saving them for things like after I finish leveling everything up. Because I heard the Dragoon one is really good too. But I think you hit it on the head, Kaiza. I think that's what makes Amnesia plot lines work. When you're the main character, you're filling stuff out. But when it's another character, you're like, it doesn't work as much. Yeah, I need to go do that. The only one I've done is the White Mage one, because it's like, alright, let's finish this stupid quest line. You want to talk about, like, boring storytelling? The White Mage one has just been, like, God. It's not been interesting. I've never found that. Then there's one that's interesting. And the White Mage's, like, storyline is the one with, like, the giant tree in Gridania, because it fills out the lore of that world, of that forest. That's when it's interesting. But for the most part, most of the Conjure and the White Mage shit is just boring as hell. Hell, even the monk stuff isn't that good. I mean, Eric, who, like, tells you, like, you learn more, you get more interesting stuff out of the monk storyline from the NPC who tells you about the history of it than you do from the actual quest. Like, the lore behind monk is fucking rad. But for the most part, like, the actual quest doesn't deal with it unless you talk to an NPC on the side. I always found that crazy. Dragoon's always had a good one. Dark Knight had a really good plot line, which I think the person that wrote Shadowbringers is the same one that did the Dark Knight one, or was that the same person that did Heavensward? I'm not sure. But they need to get her back. The woman that wrote Shadowbringers, they need to bring her back. She needs to be the main scenario writer of the next one. She killed it. She killed it with Shadowbringers. Like, bring her back. She did a great job of just, God, great storytelling, great character iterations. I want her to be the main writer. I really hope that it's her. I mean, it wasn't just her. It was her and her team. But have the core group of writers again. Get them to write it. Get them to do it again. Scholar and Summoner, yeah. I mean, I'm going to do all of them. I'm such a lore junkie that I'm gonna do them. I've gotten the only jobs I haven't leveled up yet, I'm slowly doing them through trusts, are Bard is 75, Dark Knight is 77, Astra's like 78 or something like that. And most of my trusts are pretty leveled up. They're getting there. But yeah, I'll definitely be doing it at some point. My friend Jason was telling me I had to do Dragoon because of how nice that, like, how much lore is trapped in there. But I think, like I said, I'm just waiting till I have finished leveling all my stuff. I liked all the other previous Summoner ones though. Previous Summoner stuff was great. A lot of the job quests are really great. Bard's kind of mediocre in the 60 quests, but it gets better. Once you meet those two buffoons, they're pretty fun. White Mage is really the only one that's just kind of, like, they just don't know what they're doing with it. It's just not interesting. There we go. Oh. I read them every now and then. But not all the time, just because I usually miss them. I'll check them out every now and then. There's a fun one with, like, Alize and Y'shtola having a tea party. I thought that was funny. and talking about how like they pretty much have a crush on the Warrior of Light. Thought that was fun. Because it's super apparent in the storylines, like, oh, Alize be crushing hard. Hell, even the Exarch feels like they're crushing hard. But then again, it might just be that Japanese friendship thing that happens a lot in anime. Warrior of Light cross Amaric. I do like Amaric. I really like his character. I do want to see more of him too. I really liked his, and I really like his second in command too. She's great also. Cut that out. Cut that out. Nice. Probably excited for those portraits that are coming in for the housing then, if you want that Amaric thing. I think it's like Amaric and Estinian or something like that. I think another reason why I like Tien as well is just because he reminds me so much of Tenzin from Final Fantasy XI. He's kind of like a continuation of that character in some ways. Very different, but that was a lot of fun. If only they could fix the anti-aliasing on some of his armor. God, some of that stuff does not look good texture-wise. Up close in those cutscenes. There we go. A little bit of light in here. It's very dramatic lightning, but this guy's going to be covered mostly by like snow and stuff, this Iron Giant. I will say Stormblood just did a better, not Stormblood, Shadowbringers did do a better job of having better villains though. Ranjit was fucking rad. I think that's one of the biggest faux pas of Stormblood. Is it had a really good villain, but he's gone from the story very early on, right as that expansion starts. And then the kind of backup one, they don't do a very good job of like what Xenos' motivations are. So I do think that there's a much more tangible, the villains are much more tangible in Shadowbringers, and I think that is a big strength of that expansion. Like Shadowbringers does a better job of fleshing out its villains, and Stormblood does a better job of fleshing out the world. But that said, like the world of Stormblood, Shadowbringers is really good too. But I would just say, like, if we were like talking about the strengths of those expansions, I'd say it's definitely that. Your supporting cast is very much focused on, and it's not really focused on who the enemy is, to some of its detriment. I can't wait to see what they do with Xenos going forward. I'm really interested to see how that character plays out, because I think that the writing team is going to do something fun with him. He's going to become a much more interesting character. Alright, I think that giant's good. Whew. Zale. Oh, that's not the original. This one. Scroll up. Oop. And duplicate. And there we go. Cool. Almost all the characters are in shadow. I mean, there's still the background and stuff like that, but that's going good. The Fordola one from Stormblow is worth a read. I think I read the Fordola one. Go ahead and link them in the chat. I'll go ahead and like check those out if you can find them. If you show someone with a Renaissance an image of a starstorm to awaken, what happens? Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that was a fun callback too, to bring that back into the fold and bring that stuff into the Forelight once again. What the hell? Oh, okay. That makes sense. Alright, this one is going to be a lot simpler, because this one's going to be mostly rim light. Oh, that's right. Let's combine that. Oh, nope, never mind, not that color. There we go. That's better. Saving that. Cool, thanks. Appreciate that. Alright, Kaiser. Have a good one, dude. I must have missed that in the chat. I'm sorry. "79 messages were deleted by a moderator." Bayonetta 3 sounds cool, Pat. I'm looking forward to that too. I think Kaiser might have left a while ago, but I think I missed it. I feel bad. But know that in the VOD, he will be forever missed. Until the next time. Ooh, what's this? Hey. That's better. Alright, let's lower that opacity so I can see a little bit more. Nice. Yeah, a lot of this is just going to be rim lighting, so I don't have to do too much for this guy. Maybe a little back rim. There we go. A little bit of lighting here. Maybe catches a little bit. A little bit here. Think I would like I know some people mentioned like there's certain games for the channel like Bayonetta that I think would be fun to play through at some point as well. Bayonetta seems like a game that's right up my alley. I know my brother really liked it. I just never got into it for some reason. I think just because I just didn't have the money at the time. But I love platinum stuff, so I think that would be a game that would hit my sweet spot. Give it a little bit of light here. Not a ton. Most of it's going to be in shadow, but I want little reflections of light to kind of like hit. Yeah. Oop. little bit more here. A little bit there. Nice. And this sword's gonna have a little bit more. This gun blade. And then a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Yeah, for the most part, that's gonna be pretty much it. I don't want too much there because he's gonna be mostly in shadow. I mean, if I'm qualified to speak on anything other than art, 14 is my nerd thing. It's like that and Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross are like the games that get me to nerd out on, along with 14. Alright, let's see. Foreground. And pump this up. It's either that or you'd have to talk about Mr. Robot right now, because that's like the only thing. Then again, I might be off Mr. Robot. It's been like a week or two since I finished that 3rd season. Still waiting to Amazon Prime to give me my free version of season 4 because I'm too cheap to pay for it. That show was fun. Very dark though. Very dark. All my brothers were like, I had to stop watching that after a while, which is exactly how I was after Breaking Bad. I got to like the last season. I'm like, I'm done. I need to stop. This show is too dark. I need to go watch puppies hug each other or something like that. Give me something lighthearted. That should be good for that. I'm gonna call you main. And you know what? I'm gonna save this as version 4. And I'm gonna delete some of the stuff I don't need anymore to make this Photoshop file a bit smaller. Because I don't need to have that extra data in here. This file is already big enough. Alright, there we go. I can totally get behind that, Pat. Like, I can totally understand when people are like, I need light stuff because there's too much dark stuff in life as it is. I'm totally down for that. Every once in a while I watch dark stuff. For the most part, though, I watch light stuff. Let's see. Alright, that's done. That's done. That. Really is just background stuff. Okay, let's see. 7:04. Do we take a break and come back, or do I keep working on it? Background. I think I'll keep working on it for a little bit more. Let's go ahead and lower that. I think I need to do like a reverse for this. I'm gonna need to repaint in some of that stuff for the lighting. Oh, that is way too big. that in there. There we go. There we go. Okay. Keep working. Snow's weird too. Like, especially with shadows. Be interesting to see how I have to kind of fix that and adjust that as I'm going. It's pretty much all art is just problem solving, I guess. Figuring out, well, problem solving in a life of commitment. There we go. Snow is the worst. Cold and wet and gets in the way. I do like cold weather though. I don't live where there's snow though. I think I would hate snow if I lived by it, cause I feel like its magic wears off very, very quickly. It's like, oh, snow, this is great, and then you realize you gotta shovel it, and you're like, ah, fuck. Makes me glad my parents moved to California when they did. Never once heard them say, you know what I miss about living in the Midwest? Snow. That has never been a word that's ever come out of my parents' mouth. I don't think they missed that one part about it one iota. It's funny, a large part of this is just guessing, though. Just guessing that it'll work. Kind of trying to lay down some form. But honestly, you just don't know. For a lot of it. It's a cool challenge, though. Because I don't want to put too much dynamic lighting for stuff that's in the background. Because if you do too much, it's going to draw your attention away. Yeah, it looks nice, it's just not fun to deal with. because it's a blizzard. I have to keep remembering that it's a blizzard. And like there's going to be fancy lighting going on. But in general, it's like I don't want to cause too much attention for that stuff. But if I don't have enough contrast in lighting, then ooh. Like I know typically in a snowstorm you won't see that much shadow, so it won't be as stark as this, but without some dynamic lighting, it's going to look too flat. And since I don't have a painterly look, I have to kind of figure ways to hype it up, I guess. Make it more dynamic. But this is kind of like the really exciting part, because once the inks are done, and it's a slow process, but getting in the shadows, like once it changes from this, you guys have seen it through the speed paints. It's crazy how much, like, once you just add in the flats and then just change the shadows to what they're supposed to be in terms of lighting, how much it makes that piece feel alive. When I was younger, I'd have like a lack of confidence in this stuff, but for the most part now I'm like, it's gonna look fucking baller once it's done. I just gotta keep on believing that it's going to work itself out based on all previous experience. I treat animation the same way. I'm kind of at the point now artistically that I know I can illustrate anything, that I can animate anything. I just need time. Just time to work it out, time to solve it. It may not be 100% exactly what I want it to be, but it'll be close enough, and it'll still look really cool. I'll still be proud of it. Oh, cold when you're at the skin sting. Yeah. It never gets that cold in Cali, at least not here. That kind of cold's not fun. My brother lived in Kansas for a little bit. He prefers living in LA, I'll tell you that. He would much rather live there now. That's more his swag, his style. LA's a little too warm for me, though who knows, maybe someday I'll live there. But I prefer living in the Bay. Nice. I think I need to have less lighting the further I go back. This is the first time I've really done a snowstorm. So that I can think of, like a blizzard. So I'm trying to figure out what'll be the right level of lighting. But I think a part of it too, it'll just be on the figuring. I'll just probably end up having to erase certain details and stuff like that, certain shadows. It'll also just depend on how much is going on. Yeah, that's looking good. It's really hard. The way that I think of it, the reason why I think I can handle shadows the way I do is I've been doing it for so long. I took a lot of still lifes and a lot of, lighting courses and stuff like that. So I have a general idea of how lighting works blue lip. It comes down to just trying to imagine in your head that there's a spotlight, that there's just an orb or lights coming around. And then from there, just trying to think of like, well, if that leg is blocking this, how's this light hitting? Oh, it's because the torso's turned a little bit. Or the light is here, so it's hitting here and here and here and here. Like, it's not perfect. Like, if you were doing, someone like who was like a lighting specialist came in and be like, this is technically wrong. This stuff technically needs to be fixed. It'd be like, yeah, no, you're right. But it's just all about like how it feels. Like, it feels like right now that there's a light source right in the middle here because of the way that they're lit and the way that I'm having lighting here. So the trick to it is just remembering that there is a light source. And just trying your best to interpret it it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. And it's always something that I'm trying to improve upon as well. There's no... I don't think any artist has perfect lighting unless it's CG work. I think just all you're trying to do, the whole purpose of lighting is to capture a mood or a feeling more so than anything. It should always be with that goal in mind. And I think the biggest thing that helps with that is making sure that you're using colored shadows. You should be using like a dark purple or a dark red or a dark blue. Never just use black. Like this will never stay this shade of it because it doesn't look good. Like yeah, in real life, most shadows are kind of blackish, but not really. Like even in my room with the limited lighting I have on right now, there's a bit of blue in the lighting because the way the skin absorbs the light and the way it reflects it and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's all about practice, dude. The more you practice it, the better you're gonna get. Hold on a second. Let me look at some of my old work. Let me pull up some of my older work. Just to give a ballpark. Gallery folders. Where is this? Featured. Like you guys have seen recent work. Let me pull up some of my older stuff. Let's see. I felt like I was really starting to hit lighting about a couple years ago. I don't think I had it perfect. I mean, every year it gets a little bit better. But I really started to think about lighting and invoke it a lot more in the last few years, probably like the last 3 or 4 years. I always thought about lighting, but it's definitely become much more dynamic for me since I got out of college. That was a fun piece. Where's a good example? How many years ago was some of this stuff? Let's see. Where are you? This is from an old project. I can show you guys that. It was a fun project, but it didn't really go too many places. This is an old Thor piece. So, like, I guess this is a good example. Like, this shows, like, how much my work has changed. When was this? not 2011. Yeah, May 8th, 2011, 9 years ago. My style used to have a really thicker line work. Mostly worked on the pen tool, not as much defined shapes. Shadows, like, in doing lots of highlights and stuff like that, and I've kind of refined it since then. But it's all about practice, dude. Like, this is where I was 9 years ago, and then now I'm drawing stuff like that, you know? This was... When was this? This was December... This is 2011 as well. This is where I was doing, like, a Macbeth kind of thing. Like, this is, like, right almost out of college. This one was fun. This one is where I really started kind of figuring stuff out with lighting and stuff. This was like a year later. This is a commission for a friend of mine. This one was a lot of fun. I still really like this piece, actually. There's a lot I dig about it. I like the pose I did for Deadpool. I like that it's kind of that Samurai Jack art style. There's a lot about this that I still really dig in terms of an aesthetic. And occasionally I'll use this aesthetic for fun, using the more cutout design work stuff. But you know, even when I look at this, like this is something I did for Chris and Jen. This was for their wedding. This is their gift. They loved Adventure Time at the time, so I drew them as characters, like TenMoreMinutes and Chris as like Adventure Time characters with Zoe and Fox as their characters. But even here, like I look at this stuff and the final print looks really good. That's in the house, but I could have pushed the lighting a little bit more. And there's more techniques that I've learned since then that have kind of helped out. And this was 2015, so like this is 2011, then we're 2015, and then this is I think 2016. This one was a lot of fun, of Super Metroid. I really like this one. This is where I was really starting to get into background stuff and really wanting to push and elevate what I could do. And there's a lot about this piece that I think is still really successful. I really like what I did with Samus's ship. I really like that. That looks fucking... That still looks good to me. I still like this. But then I'll look at like this piece. I don't know why DeviantArt has lowered the res of so much stuff lately. Like they botched so much of the stuff in this last couple of years. Like this looks better than it actually does. This is a commission for a free comic book day. I still like the way I drew Groot and how I drew some of these characters, but not so much Thanos. And some of the lighting could be a bit better. Yeah, and I mean that's what I'm getting at is like, it's all just about practice. Like you look at this, and then it took 5 years for me to get to that. You know, it's all about time. There's no shortcut, at least not for me. You know, I'm always putting in work and always trying new things. And like this isn't even like, even the stuff that I upload doesn't even show a fraction of the amount of sketchbooks that I have and the things that I work on and stuff like that. You know, my core style has always been there and you can kind of see it, but like this stuff is all from like when I was about to graduate college, you know. And like I was working on Cy Cooper at the time near the end of this, but my own style didn't really kind of hit its... I think it's now just hitting... I'm in my peak years right now where I've really, really figured it out. I wasn't really doing backgrounds. I mostly just drew characters. And I'd have a couple of breakouts like that one every now and then that were really cool. But I just didn't know how to do it. You know? A lot of proportions changed, a lot of learning perspective. Like, I didn't start out as like someone that was super good about stuff. This is actually fun. This is a really old piece. This is my first drawing of us, I guess. Like, that's Chris and Jen. Like, look how much my style has changed since then. Shortcut would be nice. I feel that way about painting, man. Mike, me, Chris, Jen, like, you know, all that stuff is like, all that stuff has changed a lot. So you just gotta work at it. There unfortunately is no shortcut, but it also makes me grateful for how much my stuff has changed and how much I've kind of evolved as an artist. And I'll look at some of these old pieces and I leave them up for this very reason. So when people go back and look through my gallery, they can see it's like, oh, look how much he's improved since then. Look how much his art style has changed, how much work, you know, had to be put in order to get to that level. There's some people that are naturally talented, that naturally, you know, have the gift to understand and execute at an early age. I didn't have that. I just had to fucking keep on grinding and keep on working and figuring out what I wanted to do. I think the core of my style has always stayed there. It's just evolved. And there's a couple pieces here and there where I'm like, ooh, you know, I'll look at this one and I'm like, I kind of still dig this. Like, there's still elements about this piece that I still like. But that was 10 years ago. And now I'm doing this stuff. Kind of reminds me of Shaggy. Sam seems very different. Reminds me of Shaggy a little bit. Yeah, my hair used to be a bit more poofy. Yeah. That's the same thing, Pat. Like, there's a certain level of innate ability that people are born with, but I feel like for the most part, for the majority of people, for any talent that's labeled a talent, you still got to put in the work. You still got to work at it. You still got to put in the hours and put in the time. Um, and the ones that don't kind of, I think, end up typically peaking early in terms of artistic growth. My philosophy with art is I want to be able to draw everything, and that's something that I wanted to try and do more and more as time has gone on. Really starting with like these pieces and like the Zope piece and the D&D Phoenix campaign. This is about where like I started really, really wanting to work on backgrounds and really being like, I want to be a full illustrator, you know, not kind of this half-assed version I've been doing. Like, I really want to be able to like draw anything anyone proposes to me, and now I feel like I am at that point. I've practiced enough things. Like, there are times I just study and I'm just drawing animals. That's it. Like, this is in 2015 where I was like, I remember my teacher being like, I wish you were better, like did more concrete animal sketches. So I was like, all right, cool. So I spent like 2 months just working on animal sketches, and they're like all in here. And these things I still love these things. These things are so much fun still. Like, I can draw animals better since then, but you know, some of this stuff still makes it into my like portfolio page and stuff like that, because some of it is still works. They still work as sketches. They still work as like, oh no, he can draw sharks. He's good. He can draw tapirs. Why? I don't know. They're funky looking, but they're fun. Working on different types. Certain things work about this. Like, that's pretty good. That works. This is a little off. That looks nice. Because all of it comes back and folds into another thing. They all really work towards helping you get better. Everything, like drawing, it may seem weird, but drawing manta rays does help drawing sharks, and drawing sharks does help drawing, you know, penguins or bears and stuff like that. You know, it all kind of folds into each other. So yeah, don't get discouraged by that kind of stuff. Like, if you're feeling like you're not progressing far enough, you gotta, that's one reason why I like keeping sketchbooks. Yeah, and that's another thing too. That's why I invented this new technique, which is really just the same technique I would be using if I was just drawing regularly. But it happens with the couchlings too. With the couchlings, it wasn't that I was avoiding background work, but they would take too long to do it in my old style. So the new style that I invent is like, I really want to find a way to do that process, add a background to it, and really elevate it. But you know, some things don't need a background, but some things demand a background, I feel like. And the way that we've set it up, I don't have to do a background. It's my choice if I want to or not. But I always like, my philosophy in life is, how can I up my ante? How can I make this, how can I elevate this to be something even better? And that's what I like to do. I'm always looking for ways to improve my own art. How can I up this and make it even better than it was before? That was not the one I was expecting, but that's okay. I can do this one next. And that's one thing I try and tell my students and tell my friends. Like, I have a lot of art friends that have just been good for a long time, and they just were kind of innately good. I've always had the philosophy, it's like, nah, I'm not really that talented. I'm just committed, more so than anything. And when my friends, like, see my stuff, they're like, oh yeah, man. Fuck. Your old stuff is rough. I'm like, yep. It's just hard work. And not that they haven't gotten better or that they haven't put in hard work. But I think there's this philosophy with some people that they only see the finished product and they don't understand, like, no, like, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you just don't end up seeing. And that's not anyone's fault. It's why I prefer saying skill rather than talent, because I feel like sometimes talent, while good natured and well meaning, Sometimes I feel like it undermines all the effort someone puts into a craft that they really care about. Though that's never the intention of the person that says that, so I don't really hold it against them. When I was younger, a little bit more so, but now, not so much. Because I know it comes from a good place. They really respect what you do. That's more so what it means than anything. Do reading chat. Mine's for Shaggy, yeah. Yeah, talent only takes you so far. I had a friend that could paint like Bob Ross, not like Bob Ross, like Alex Ross in high school. Her stuff was awesome. She was my friend since I was little, and it was kind of a little disheartening because she was just so innately better at art than I was. She's not an artist anymore, though. Like, she doesn't paint and draw or anything, but she was like copying a Batman, Superman, Alex Ross thing, and it looked like it. I was super impressed. Her ability to do it was really good. And maybe in retrospect, I would look at that now, and maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was. But I was really impressed by her. But it was too easy for her, so she just kind of got bored when she didn't do it anymore. She's a hairdresser now, and she really loves that. And she expresses herself in that fashion. And she's still my friend. Still love and respect her. But I think... But it just kind of comes down to, yeah, like, you gotta have the passion for it at the same time. And I just can't get discouraged by the 15-year-old that is better than me now. I just want to be the best version of my art that I can. And I'm excited because I keep elevating my level. My level keeps on getting up and up and up. That I'm excited to where it's going. I can't wait to see where like this 10-year jump was crazy. So I can't wait to see what kind of refinement I make in the next 10. Like, that doesn't even touch on like the stuff I've been doing with animation. Like, I'm super excited for that stuff. I can't wait to do more animation stuff. I feel like a very, very complete artist now. So if someone hired me for a project, I would have no problem doing whatever they need. And that's a good feeling. I just gotta work on my marketability. Spent all this time working on my craft. Now I gotta work on the business side of it. Which is boring, but necessary. Something I need to get better at. Say for this next generation, this next 10 years, I want to get better at painting backgrounds. And I want to get better at storytelling as well. Definitely publish my own comic by the end and do at least a couple of animated shorts before this 10 years is up. Among other things. Which, I'm excited to finish that eventually, that Hijinks art book. That'll be fun when that's all done. Because I finished a bunch of those illustrations. So eventually that'll be packaged into something. I was looking at Lulu and figuring out how I would sell that and stuff like that. So that's exciting. That'll be a fun art book to make. Be kind of like a lore Bible in some ways for that, but like mixed in with illustrations and character designs and stuff like that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I should have that finished probably beginning of June, right before my birthday. Should probably be done by then. Probably sooner than that. I want to have it sooner, but I think that's a good goal, is around that time. By the end of this month, March, I'd like to have at least half the illustrations done for the book. and then be starting to put it together. Ooh. Nice. When your pieces of merch shipped, of course it was a sticker and not the shirts. Nice. Usually with stickers, I stick them on my little mount stand for my computer. That's usually where I stick them. I'm interested to know how those turn out. Thank you for ordering one of those. Chris said you'll send pictures, which is good, because that will be nice to see. Hopefully they turn out well. I'm really excited. I had a lot of fun designing that stuff. Give a little snow here, a little bit of light. A little bit of light here. A little bit more light there. Nice. Okay. That sounds cool. I'll have to remember, because we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes, that at some point I'll have to end this, because otherwise Chris won't be able to edit it. But I think it's like the 4-hour mark, because I still want to finish the lighting for some of this stuff. I think I can finish it. That way next time can just be flats. But yeah, there'll probably be a bunch of these art streams over the next couple days. I want to get this one done. Don't be surprised if there's another one soon, like real soon, because I realized like the 3rd episode was like in the beginning of January. Like, this needs to get done. I need to finish this. This one's been sitting on the shelf for too long. No more elves on the shelf. I knew this one was going to take a while though, but definitely just want to... I want to see the final product. I want to see what this looks like when it's all said and done. And just get on to smaller illustrations. That way these streams are like, oh, it was finished in like 3 streams instead of what this one is, which is like a monstrous one. Because ideally with the other ones, like, maybe it'll be a 4-hour session, but it'll be done in like 2 sessions, because it'll take like 7 hours to do. Kind of like the Jack and Daxter one, where it's like the full illustrations there, just because it'll be like 1 or 2 characters type of deal. And the vision will be a bit more clear. Maybe for some of them I'll start out with having the sketches ready and the thought process done. Stuff like that. And then it'll just be kind of like cleanup and stuff like that, which I might have to do for some of them. This is going to be mostly trees. I don't think I even want to do too much here in terms of like lighting. Yeah, I don't want to do too much. I don't want to really draw too much attention to there. It's going to be mostly in shadow and a lot of snow and stuff. I do want a little bit in here though. Because I need to get more children's illustration stuff up on my portfolio site. I need to get that stuff done. Probably more so before I start finishing more of that book stuff. Need to get at least, I want to have at least like 10 examples of children's illustrations for my portfolio. Currently I don't have that many. I think I have like 4, so I want to get a variety of stuff up there soon. Definitely by the end of this month. Probably gonna push on that hard. Just because it makes me more marketable for a lot of stuff. Oh, sorry. I missed a lot of that stuff. I think Kaiser grabbed a shirt too. I think they did. Yeah, that's unfortunately why it happens. It's all about the quality too, Blue Lip. So ideally, if you buy a $40 one, it's gonna last a long time. That's pretty much how clothes are now for the most part. Like a good custom hoodie is like 40 because it's like 20 for a decent hoodie. So you're probably paying like $30 for good materials, and then the extra 10 for like the logo and branding and stuff like that, which is why it's around 40. It's expensive. No question there. But that's just like the market for custom stuff. The only way to make it cheaper is like if we bought like 1,000 of them, but we don't have the storage space, nor do we have the cash for that. And then we'd have to send them out and stuff like that. So that's kind of the game when it comes to that stuff. This doesn't belong here. Get out of my space. That's better. Oh wow, that is thin. Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Nope. I'm getting real Celeste vibes going on now. Too many mountains. Alright. That thing is good. Now for the dragon. Oh, good night, Pat. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us. I hope you have a good night. Take care. I'm gonna need to check chat. I haven't seen this in a little bit. Have you thought any price the commission would be? Oh god, did I never give you a price for that, Valentara? I think I was waiting for you to give me more information. Did I just completely lose track of that? If I did, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and give you a price for that tomorrow. I'll re-review it. And I'll give you a price for that. But if I forgot, my bad. There's like another... I have like 3 commissions lined up or something like that. But no, I can give you a price for that. Oh. I think what happened is around the time that I said I was going to do that commission, I ended up getting sick. I think it's part of it too. So I think that just threw me off. But I'll give you a price this weekend. I think I've roughed it out of my head how it would look, how much it would be. So I can kind of visualize that at this point. So I'll get you a number this weekend. Erase that. I was actually just thinking about the other day. I was like, Valentara hasn't talked to me about their commission in a while. And then now I realize, oh, it was on me. I'm the problem. Me. Which makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I'll give you a ballpark for that. I'll need to reread it because I don't want to say it on stream. But I can do the math for that. I'll make sure to read that after the stream tonight. But I think the main reason, I'm sorry for that, is I think I got off track was just because I think I ended up getting sick and my brother was moving. I was helping him move and the month just kind of got away from me. Food poisoning, all this lovely stuff. And now I'm sick again. Well, kind of sick. Sort of sick. Minor sickness. There we go. That sucks. I know that feeling. I broke my glasses not too long ago. Luckily, Zenny is a cheap, good alternative. So I did that to get mine. And I know you wanted that streamed, so if it does end up being streamed, it would have to be after this gets finished. But yeah, I'll get you a price on that. I know a friend of mine was wanting to commission me for something too. I need to ask them again for like stuff on it. I'm sure she just got sidetracked. She wanted a big old commission friend of mine said he was going to commission me too. He needs to give me his pictures and stuff like that so I can finish that for him. Most of this will be in shadow. Can't believe it's already almost 8 o'clock. Well, at least for me. A little bit of lighting here, a little bit of lighting there, a little bit there, a bit under his eyes. There we go. Ooh. I need the title. Discord Doc is too. Yeah. Chris will handle that. Thanks, Doc. Yeah, Chris knows how to do that stuff. I'm not quite sure how to do it on my end. He might be asleep right now, though. Actually, it's 8 o'clock. He's not asleep. And again, could be. Probably not. He has been sick, though. And bring that in. I do want this mostly in shadow, so I'm really not going to light this too much. I'll need to add more chains over time, but I think that'll be something I add at the end. Of that illustration. Alright. Yeah, I don't think I want to light that any more than that's already lit. I think that's good. Cool. Hoy. Chris the magical Discord wizard. Yeah, it wasn't always that way though. Okay. I'll make sure to do that later. What's a server booster? I saw it on your roll list. It's been a while. Oh. Server boost allows us to have extra things like the animated icon and more emotes and stuff like that. So when people do server boosts, it gives us more stuff we can play with in Discord. That's basically what it amounts to. Which, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. In all honesty, I don't know if people will be up for it, but I might just do this again tomorrow night. I might stream again tomorrow, and I want to get this thing done. I'll see how I'm feeling. But I might be doing another round, which I don't know if our internet can take that toll, but I just want to get this piece knocked out. I want to have this piece done by like definitely done by the end of this month. And I know there's other art I can work on, but I want to get this out of my mind so I can work on stuff like your commission, Valentara, or the commission for my friend Kelly. And this one has just been kind of there for a while that I just need to get done. And I've been kind of, not avoiding it, but having to spread it out because it is streamed. And there's still so much work to do. I made this one way more complicated than I need to make it, but like I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm always trying to, like I said, find that way to elevate it. We'll see. Maybe I'll take a break. But I'll probably want to work on it tomorrow, so we'll see. See, 3 hours and 12 minutes. See you later, Jack. We're not going to be going on much longer. So what do I do when that happens? It's a good question, Blue. When I can't even think of what to do in terms of doodle, I'll just pick a subject that I'm not very good at. So I'll pick something that I'm not great at drawing. So like maybe cars. Or maybe I want to work on drawing rims, draw hands, maybe draw noses, maybe draw fingers. I'll just pick things. Oh, I want to draw building faces. I'll draw buildings. That's usually where I start. I'm like, oh, I want to draw animals. I'm going to draw some bears. You know? Stuff like that. And then I just kind of go until I get a groove, and then I just keep getting into it. I feel like when it comes to artist block and stuff like that, you just gotta just force yourself to kind of get over it. It sounds weird, but once you do it for a little bit, you'll start finding your groove. And then once you find your groove, you're set. It takes a long time, I think, to get to that point where you're just confident enough that you can draw anything, which I find, like I said, I finally kind of got to that point. But yeah, when I can't think of anything to draw, I mean, there's apps for it as well, but I'll just start with the basic idea of like, robots might be fun. Let's draw robots. Or be like, you know what, yo-yos sound like fun. I've never drawn a yo-yo. Let's draw a yo-yo. You know? And kind of work on it from there. And I just find that eventually ideas will spawn off of that, and I'll just spin off and kind of eventually really get the idea rolling from there. And then maybe they'll tailspin into a different idea, and my brain will think about something else. And just kind of go from there. Okay. This will be covered a little bit by trees. Alright. That's it for the lighting. Boy. Oh, that was an endeavor. Now it's just effects and flats. Effects, flats, and blizzard and stuff like that. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. Yeah. There's a ton of lighting. That's all that what goes into it. It's stuff you don't see, but I think that's good. I don't want to overplay the middle ground and the background too much. I think that's good in terms of lighting, just enough to give that there's some indication of light, but not enough. Dragon looks good. Yeah. I think that's good for tonight. High chance tomorrow I'll be doing flats for it to see where it goes, and then from there the process gets pretty speedy. There's still gonna be a lot because there's gonna be a lot of special effects and a lot of blending and stuff I have to do, but in general I'm thinking 2 more sessions it should be done, 3 max. Just depends how much I want to fiddle with it. But yeah, what am I doing, Streeby? Because he's got to be in there somewhere. He won't be in the final illustration. He looks too goofy. Maybe I'll do a joke one. Screeby will return. Screeby will probably end up becoming I'll make that into an emote that we can use. So I'll illustrate that. I'll illustrate that at some point. He will become a new channel icon. But yeah, that's it. Thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for having a good time with me. You guys kept me going. I hope I entertained you a little bit and we had some good conversations. I will likely do another one of these probably tomorrow. Definitely not Sunday, but I don't know. I'll see how I'm feeling. Sunday will probably be Chris doing Pokemon. Yeah. I do like to do that. Like the Namazu. I almost added into the illustration. Almost. But that's it for everything. After tonight, I will probably have to ask Chris about the credits or whatever. But until then, I will catch you guys all later. Have a good night. Peace. Beep. Bop. And where is it? Boop.